What's up, agents, and welcome back to another Division video, where today we're going to talk all about the brand new game mode coming in Year 8 Season 1, Escalation. Now, unfortunately, the PTS has finished. You might notice that this looks a little bit different because Rally Point Omaha is going to be opening up to give us the new section in the base of operations. But luckily enough, I did take some footage. So first of all, let's talk about what Escalations is. It's heroic level difficulty, but scaled up 10 different tiers. Each tier gets progressively harder and harder through enemy scaling and then mutators, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. So what you're going to get at the base of operations is this escalation menu. You can see there's a countdown that says time remaining on. That's because these 5 missions will rotate every week into, I guess, a playlist style. You get a different 5 missions every single week. The ones that we had in the PTS were Space Admin, DUA, Manning National Zoo, Liberty Island, and the Army Terminal. Now, you can pick any of these that you want, but I think at the moment, because of the link to the prototype gear, generally people are going to farm whichever they can do the fastest. And obviously from this list, it's always going to be Space Administration or DUA. Both of them are fairly fast. And to be honest, you can probably do DUA faster than Space Admin if you get your run down with your team. So essentially, that's a little bit of a issue that I have with the mode right off the rip. And I think that's just basically because we have no targeted loot with prototype gear. If there was actually daily targeted loot, not the selectable type where certain missions pick up a different loot every day, it might actually encourage people to go into different missions. For instance, if Army Terminal had strikers, for instance, everybody's going to pile in. If Unit Alloys was in Liberty Island, everyone's going to pile in just to try and get them named pieces or the gear set pieces that they really want as prototype variations. But we're not here to talk about prototype gear. That is in my other video. You can go and check that out and get all of my views and comments there as well. So when you head up to the base, you can actually go into a menu where you can select the mission. Now in the PTS, everything was a little bit grayed out here at the bottom, but that's not going to be the intention when it actually goes live. And you can see at the moment, this is kind of tier 1 scaling. I'm not really sure why this is here, because it doesn't look like you've got any kind of scaling or anything here to represent, unless it represents where you're up to. But I feel like it always resets every time you went to it. But it allows you to fast travel straight to the mission, which is kind of good. And then when you get to the actual mission itself, it's going to show the new escalation menu. Now, if you actually just fast travel to the mission, there's an option at the bottom that says escalate mission. So you don't have to use that. You can actually pick from the open world map as well if you want to. That also gives you an option. And as you can see there, you can also de-escalate the mission if for some reason when you get here, you change your mind. You can matchmake here as well. But one thing we need to talk about is the token-based system that the mode has. So you can see here at the moment in time, because it was the PTS, we got given max tokens when we opened the cache. That's certainly not going to be the case, but you can get some tokens fairly easily by completing the first level, tier 0 essentially. If you do that, it costs you nothing to get in and you'll get 2 tokens profit. Now, one thing you have to be a little bit more careful about here is that if you are the team leader, you pay the entry cost. And then when you come out, you actually win the majority of the tokens. Everybody else only gets a little percentage of the tokens because essentially they got in for free. But if you are matchmaking, just be very careful with this. I can fully see that there's going to be some toxicity around this potentially, because people won't really feel like they have to worry too much if it's not their tokens. So I very much would advise to play this in as a team at the beginning when it goes live, just because then you know the people you're with. And if you need a team, join my Discord. Plenty of friendly, educated people in there who've been playing for a long time, who'll always be willing to help out. And if anyone wants anything to do with prototype gear when this launches, everybody's going to be in playing it anyway. So let's just carry on with the footage. So you can see here at this point, then you get the option to buy the next tier or you can buy your next tier as well, or what you can do is actually view the mutators. And here are the mutators that you can potentially get in the mission that you're going to do. And if I just roll it back a little bit, mutators will appear on the mission objective screen with the tier difficulty scaling if you actually got them. But you can click view mutators at the bottom to go into the menu just to see which ones there are. So we've got Harvester. When dealing damage, the enemy regenerates armor and health by a percentage of your maximum armor, and they can overheal. Suppressor. When damaged, the enemy starts to charge an EMP blast. When fully charged, he unleashes it, disrupting everything in the area. Anchor. This enemy has damage resistance and fires incendiary ammo as long as he and any allies are around him. This one is pretty annoying. And then we've got Aid Specialist. This enemy periodically repairs the armor of all allies around him if they become badly damaged. And that's the enemy mutators. So a little bit like enemy modifiers that we get in global events. We've then got the global mutators, which all enemies can benefit from. We've got Unyielding. All enemies become immune to crowd control effects while they're significantly damaged. So definitely make sure that you're finishing your enemies off. And then we've got Hotfoot, the one that I really didn't like because it kind of forces you out of cover. And when you move in cover, it doesn't really get rid of it either. But it says if you stay in the same spot for too long, a charge counter begins to fill. When it reaches maximum, you are shocked and take damage. And as well, it also stands you out of cover, which can be, if you're not looking to what's going on, it can be a little bit tricky. But Hasbro does deal with it. You do still take damage, but it doesn't shock you. It doesn't take you out of cover. If you've got a designated healer, that will also work. So there are a variety of ways that you're able to kind of bypass this as well. And it really does play into the importance of team play when you get up to the higher levels of tier 8, tier 9 and tier 10, because they are no joke. So let's take a look here as well. So what I'll do now in just a second, what I'll do is I'll actually buy in to some tokens at the bottom. And as you can see there, now for the next tier, if you deposit 1, you're going to get a profit back of 3. And that plays up all the way throughout all of the missions. And it actually gets quite high when it comes to scaling. For instance, tier 2 is 3 tokens and get 6 back. Tier 3 is 7 tokens and get 10 back. And if we start skipping a few tiers and get to tier 6, it's 29 tokens to go in to get 34 tokens back. Tier 7, 41 and 46. Tier 8, 54 and 60. Tier 9, 70 and 76. And then tier 10 is 87 tokens in and 94 tokens back. Now, what you've got to remember here as well is if you go into this mission and you disconnect, you actually lose your tokens. So that's a little bit rough. So just be a little bit wary of that. But it wouldn't be too bad if you're in a team, because hopefully they will just get you straight back in. The other things that you need to think about as well is if you fail and you lose your tokens. So if the team actually wipes, you actually lose all of your tokens and you get nothing back. And there is no checkpoints. If you all die and you're down and out, that is it. You actually lose all of your tokens. And yeah, back to the drawing board and farming all over again. So there is going to be an initial period where actually it's quite tough for everybody, because everyone's going to have to grind out them lower tiers before they get access to the higher tiers. Unlike in the PTS, where pretty much in day 1, we could jump straight into tier 10 as long as we grinded our way up there, because we had the tokens to do it, to test the difficulty. So yeah, definitely a bit of a grind that's going to be involved that I think we've not really felt yet, because the PTS kind of just gives you access no matter what. One other thing we'll touch on very, very quickly is obviously this mode has exclusive rewards. It does get prototype drops, and this is the only place where you're able to actually get them. Now, at the moment, it did seem that we got about 1 drop an hour. There was a kind of a 50% chance number floating around in the community. I'm not really sure exactly where that came from, but it does kind of ring about right that if you did a tier 10, you had a 50% chance to get 1 drop, which would kind of mean if you did 2 in an hour, you might get 1, which is the same feeling I was getting when I was playing along with my teammates, and that was kind of the drops that we were seeing. Other things to kind of think about when it comes to that, I really wish they're going to buff that. I really hope they do, but that is again in my other video when I talk about prototype gear. Now, I do want to say how much I do like the difficulty spike in this gear, in this game mode rather. I do like a difficult bit of content, and it feels like Division's not really had that. I always tend to have to challenge myself in the master mode, sometimes having the modifiers on, then sometimes taking them off, and just try and make the game over difficult for myself in that kind of way. So as far as a challenge goes, I absolutely welcome this. I really do like the fact we are getting something harder in the game, and if anything, I kind of wish that they'll make tier 10 even harder than what it is now, because I don't really feel like we have to have a rush to kind of complete this on day 1. It's not going to be about just grinding to tier 10 and then it's all over. Obviously it links to prototype, and I would be quite happy if it's pretty much almost impossible until we kind of lock down some strategies, lock down some gear that we need, etc, etc, etc. You know, maybe it needs a full prototype build. Obviously getting that has got some of its own issues right now, but I really do feel like they should scale the difficulty right up so that it's just not easily completed. Now, one thing I do like about this is that the base level is just a little bit more difficult than Heroic, meaning it's actually going to be pretty accessible to a lot of players. Okay, the drop rates at the moment are extremely low, but if somebody's going to run a daily mission, or they've got a project for something or something like that, and it matches up with the escalation, it's probably worth them doing it at the base level, because there's a chance that they'll pick up a prototype along the way, and they'll also pick up some tokens. One other thing as well that Yannick did mention, I really don't think that this is the final version of Escalation. He did mention that they can actually add levels to it, so maybe next season we might see a further 10 levels added to it. We might see different mutators and things like that. They very specifically built this game mode, although it is using existing content, around the fact that they can expand it very easily to give us more challenge. And what I do hope is that because of that, it does encourage us to go back out to our builds, take a look at them and go, actually, how can I adapt this build so that I can actually progress in this game mode at a higher tier, therefore maximizing the maybe potential prototype drops that I'm going to be able to get in the future. Now, if this kind of difficulty is not for you, you don't have to touch this. It doesn't affect you in any way, and you don't need any of the prototype gear for any of the other content in the game as of right now. So it's completely optional. You don't have to jump in, but if you do want to jump in and do it, it's there for you if you do. I'm not sure if I mentioned that there is a 1 hour timer or not. If that expires, you actually run out of time and actually fail, as you would probably expect. There has been some dev chatter around that timer that they want to improve that in the future, but for now they've just set it at an hour, so you can't slow-mo the actual mission and maybe cheese your way through it with skills or something like that. You have got to kind of push your way through it, especially some of the longer missions, but I expect that to probably change in the future to be a more tailored timer, maybe per stronghold or maybe per mission or something like that. But that's going to be it for this video, short and sweet. I do appreciate that they've added this to the game. I'm fully looking forward to jumping in and giving it a go. I just really hope it hits them hard expectations for players that have been here in the game for a long time. But then if it doesn't, let's just hope that they add more difficulty to it in the future, because obviously I would like to see a change in how the modifiers work. Maybe they could also be grouped together in different ones that are rotated perhaps every week, every season or something like that, just to keep it consistently fresh all the time. And maybe seasonal could get the odd new one and things like that. Maybe they could borrow ones from global events or from old global modifiers and things like that. I guess they've got quite a lot of options when it comes to mutators. With all that said though, that's going to be the end of the video. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. And as always, agents, I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.